I believe it is largely due in part to the Caitlin Clark 6 that you brought up.
Charles,
well,
you've got a
you know,
lot of.
I gotta speak up for Caitlin here. I gotta speak up for her on this one. I mean, can you imagine what would happen to her if she got in front of a microphone and a camera and said, "Yeah, I think I'm being screwed over here. I don't think they're playing me right. You know, I think this whole thing is bogus." I mean, she can't do that. She can't do that. So she has to defend her coach. Uh,
One theory floated on the panel compared Caitlin Clark's current demeanor to a form of psychological detachment, describing her on-camera presence lately as distant, almost checked out, unlike the version of her fans had grown used to seeing. One panelist agreed the framing wasn't far off, saying she barely resembled the confident personality seen in earlier interviews, and placed significant blame on the Fever's front office and coaching staff, reiterating a long-held stance that Indiana's entire organizational goal should have been building specifically around Clark's strengths, regardless of what the team could accomplish without her.
coach, uh, you know, I think he hit a great point though. You know, the Indiana Fever needs to win. You know, for WNBA, they need to win, but they need to win with Caitlin Clark. I mean, it doesn't do them any good to win without her being the big part of it or the main part of it. And I hate to say that in sports, but what it would do for the WNBA if the Indiana Fever won the championship and she was the MVP of the championship.
Another panelist pushed back slightly, defending Clark's public restraint by pointing out the difficult position she's in. Publicly criticizing her own coaching staff simply isn't realistic for an active player, so defending her coach publicly, even amid visible frustration, is often the only viable option available to her. He agreed that the franchise's success needs to be tied directly to Clark's role in production, arguing that a championship without her being the central figure wouldn't deliver anywhere near the same cultural or financial impact for the league.
If the Indiana Fever won the championship and she was the MVP of the championship, I mean, you can't measure that what that would do in terms of them in terms of popularity and monetarily. I mean, it would be the biggest thing in sports this year. You know,
But
with
coach,
that said, I don't think it's going to happen.
well, but coach, you know what that would breed? More resentment. That's the problem. I don't think it would be celebrated. I mean, I agree with just about everything being said here. This reminds me a lot. I'd have to research a little bit more before what I know.
Another panelist raised a counterpoint, that even a championship run built around Clark could paradoxically generate more resentment rather than universal celebration, drawing a historical comparison to Pete Maravich's transition from a supportive college system at LSU to a much more contentious professional environment where teammates resisted sharing the offensive spotlight with him. That comparison sparked further
Research a little bit more before what I know. Doesn't this remind you a little bit of the pro career of Pistol Pete Maravich? Incredibly skillful, very fancy player, was ahead of his time, and when he was not around that support system of Press Maravich at LSU, when he got to the NBA, there was a lot of resentment from players who didn't like his game, didn't want to share the ball, and quite frankly, I think Pete Maravich was much happier at LSU than he ever was at the NBA. This sounds familiar.
Another panelist disagreed with that characterization, arguing Clark has more competitive toughness than she's often given credit for, and that despite current struggles, her competitive instincts remain intact, though he acknowledged the drop-off from her strong second-half rookie season performance to her play since then has been noticeable and difficult to fully explain. One panelist reiterated frustration with the coaching decisions specifically, pointing to repeated instances of Clark being pulled from games early, sometimes within the first few minutes, and argued this pattern has repeated across multiple games this season, calling it a coaching failure so consistent it felt intentional rather than accidental.
Hey, this sounds familiar.
Well, unfortunately, there's probably some truth to that. But you said if they win it and she's MVP, it'll cause more resentment.
Yes,
And
no doubt.
did you ever see the movie Lean on Me?
I read Lean On. Yeah, I
Joe
did.
Clark. Yeah, it's a great.
Yeah, with Joe Clark.
Yeah.
You remember when he said, "Hey, boy, those firemen are really ticked off at you right there." And Joe said, "Yeah, out in the parking lot." Well,
He also raised concerns about a broader pattern of unfavorable media coverage, emerging specifically once Clark began more visibly pushing back against physical treatment on the court, suggesting the timing between her
firemen are really ticked off at you right there. And Joe said, yeah, out in the parking lot. Well,
but Coach, Joe Clark had a heavy stick and he called himself the Batman. That character and maybe that individual is a lot tougher than Caitlin Clark. And this is something that I've told Jason Whitlock. I really respect Caitlin Clark's skills. I don't think she's that tough. I really don't. She needs to have an armadillo skin. Unfortunately, from a psychological or mental standpoint, I don't think she is built for this.
Well, you know, I hate to disagree with you because I like listening to you talk.
The conversation then moved into predictions for an upcoming matchup against the Atlanta Dream, with one panelist outlining 4 possible outcomes. Atlanta wins with Clark playing well, Atlanta wins with Clark struggling, Indiana wins with Clark struggling, or Indiana wins with Clark playing well, arguing only the last outcome would be genuinely good for Clark's standing, while any other combination would fuel further criticism. Another panelist added that while the WNBA has provided valuable entertainment during a slow stretch in the broader sports calendar, he'd rather see Clark play brilliantly individually while the team continues losing, arguing that continued team success only reinforces confidence in a coaching staff and front office he believes needs to be replaced, rather than rewarding the current organizational direction.
You know, I hate to disagree with you because I like listening to you talk, but I've said this from day one, and I really believe this about Caitlin Clark. I think a lot of people tend to treat her as she's some kind of wilting flower, and she's not. I think Caitlin Clark, pardon the expression, but I think she's got a lot of gangster to her on that court. She is a lot tougher mentally than people think that she is. And I think eventually, whatever they're trying to do.
That prompted a tangent about coaching turnover, with one panelist noting this marks the second coaching change during Clark's short tenure, prompting pushback from another panelist, defending the previous coaching staff's track record, pointing out the team had reached the playoffs and performed competitively, even without Clark for stretches of time. Shifting to preview specifics, one panelist predicted Atlanta would win the upcoming matchup, citing the team's length, perimeter shooting, and interior presence, along with a recent strong performance on the road against a quality opponent, describing Atlanta as a tough, well-rounded team overall.
And I think eventually, whatever they're trying to do with it, I think she's tough enough that she's going to figure it out. But I will say this. She was better in the second half of her rookie season than she has been at any other point in WNBA. And that's not good for some reason. So she's in year 3, and you know, I can see why Jason would say Stockholm Syndrome, because she doesn't look as good as she did in the back half of her rookie season.
Maurice?
And that's where
Another panelist then asked a broader coaching question: whether it's typical for a team's best player to be pulled within the first few minutes of nearly every game, and whether it's common for a team to rotate through as many as 11 different players within a single first quarter. One response acknowledged occasionally seeing similar rotation patterns at lower levels of competition, trying to manage playing time fairly, but not typically involving a team's clear best player being removed early while playing well, calling that pattern unusual and difficult to justify strategically.
Develop as a player, which was a good, strong argument, and we had a kind of a debate about it. So I just want to react to some of the segments, get some things, let you guys know some things that I did not say and I did say, and just kind of clarify some things that happened on this podcast today. But guys, it was an awesome experience. Hopefully we could do it again. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Ak Nation. If you guys have not subscribed to him, I highly recommend you guys check the brother out. He's dope. And me and him kind of went at it with Jason Whitlock over Caitlin Clark and the whole Caitlin Clark fandom, the whole Caitlin Clark debate thing. But let's get it popping. And yeah, man, this should be very, very interesting, guys. But it was quite an experience for me. But let's see here. So he started to show off by going over this Jeff Teague thing. So I did the Jeff Teague story this morning. And let's see.
Another anecdote was shared about a college coaching memory involving a player being inserted briefly into a close game and struggling significantly in limited minutes, costing the team a winnable game, used as an example of how questionable substitution decisions can directly swing outcomes, though it was noted that pulling a team's clearly best-performing player early in a game, specifically, isn't something commonly seen at any level. The discussion then turned to comparisons around coaching intensity across sports, referencing well-known examples of coaches publicly confronting star players over effort or attitude, including moments in NFL and MLB history involving players being pulled mid-game for lack of hustle, pushing back on the idea that criticism of coaching decisions in this case reflects any kind of unfair gender-based double standard, arguing similarly intense sideline dynamics have long existed across men's professional sports as well.
This morning, and let's see, that's crazy that I did that.
I've been saying that. I ain't trying to start no riffraff, but that zero clean.
So let me hold it down.
Nah, she cold. And when CC's back healthy, that's the best backcourt in the W.
See, he always trying. He be trying to push this CC narrative. She good, but she not that good.
I said when she's healthy, she's the best backcourt in the W. That's
that's Bayless right there.
First of all, what I said last year, the best thing we could have did was get Kelsey Mitchell back. Y'all wasn't even tapped in enough. So we've been locked in.
The conversation wrapped with a transition toward an upcoming football-focused segment. A recent podcast discussion centered on comments made by sports commentator Jason Whitlock regarding Caitlin Clark's play this season, sparking a debate about whether her individual style has at times worked against the Indiana Fever's success.
The best thing we could have did was get Kelsey Mitchell back. Y'all wasn't even tapped in enough. So we've been locked in. Don't even worry about that.
I said she was the best player on the team.
Oh, man.
He was out of pocket, but respect to
How's that out of bed?
Best on the team.
Bro, she the best on the team.
She not playing. CC not playing. They ain't missing a beat, bro. They actually look a little better.
Cause
yeah,
they ain't shooting no wild ass threes.
She got
half court.
It look real fluent out there.
Nah, she's cold.
I'm starting a Caitlin Clark. Hey, trying
me doing that.
All right. So I don't agree with Jeff Teague. Caitlin.
The discussion originated from remarks made by NBA veteran Jeff Teague, who argued that while Clark remains the best player on the roster and has the potential to become one of the greatest in league history, there are aspects of her game that occasionally hurt the team, including a tendency to launch early clock three-point attempts, create most of her own shots rather than moving without the ball, and lapses in defensive effort. Teague noted that during a stretch late in the previous season, the team performed well with a heavier offensive emphasis on Kelsey Mitchell, suggesting that balance between the two guards could benefit the team going forward.
So I don't agree with Jeff Teague. Caitlin Clark is the best player on the Indiana Fever. She has a chance to be the best player in the WNBA. She has a chance to be the best player in WNBA history. What I will agree with on, people are reluctant to point out that Caitlin Clark occasionally plays a style that actually hurts the team.
Now, right then and there, bro, I wasn't expecting him to say that.
Responding to that framing, one commentator argued that Clark's underwhelming numbers this season are largely tied to a groin injury that has limited her from playing at the level fans have seen from her previously, while acknowledging that she does turn the ball over and occasionally takes contested shots at inopportune moments. He argued her overall value as a facilitator, creating shots for teammates and generating extra scoring opportunities, outweighs those flaws, and predicted her performance would normalize once she's fully healthy.
I wasn't expecting him to say that. Now, he goes on to talk about her shooting, her turnover. Listen.
Some of these logo threes early in the shot clock and her, creating all of her shots herself, not moving without the basketball, and then resting on the defensive end. These are the things that bother Jeff Teague. He wants to see improvement in, and it makes him say, and there was a time last year when they...
The conversation also touched on Stephanie White's decision to shift Indiana's offensive system this season, moving toward a more motion-based scheme.
And there was a time last year when they started playing well in the second half of the season where I thought, hey, Kelsey Mitchell is every bit as important to this team as Caitlin Clark. This is last year at the end of the season. Kelsey Mitchell can get a bucket. And They are playing well right now without Caitlin Clark, and I hope Caitlin Clark is learning some things and will make some adjustments. So, John, I'm going to let you start us off. Your response to my contention.
One commentator argued this system doesn't play to Clark's individual strengths as effectively as the approach used during her rookie year, suggesting the offense seems better suited to other roster pieces given its ball movement emphasis, and that the coaching staff's shift in offensive priorities has changed Clark's role and responsibilities on the floor this season in ways worth factoring into any evaluation of her play.
You start us off. Your response to my contention that Caitlin Clark needs to tweak a couple things in order for the Fever to reach their full potential.
I feel as if Caitlin Clark, this specific season, is not playing to her ability to where we previously seen her play due to this groin injury. Now, I instantly went to the injury because he's trying to say that like her shooting and her all these different things is the reason why he believed that
The overall takeaway from the discussion was disagreement over how much of Clark's statistical dip this season should be attributed to injury and system changes versus individual areas for improvement, with plans to continue unpacking the topic in follow-up commentary.